quick shout out to the organizers for inviting me, and thank you, Panditji and Richa and everyone else here, and appreciate the support of the community. The last few years have not been easy, but I think we'll come back stronger from the experience. I'm going to do a couple opening remarks, a little bit different before I go into the main talk, just as mostly for legal purposes. And I'll be reading from a script, just FYI. But quick thing, I've been a Silicon Valley entrepreneur for the last 20 years, did a bunch of startups, mostly in the tech sector. And of course, I'm also the primary manager in the Cisco Caste case. I was sued by the California Civil Rights Department, and I'll refer to them as the CRD. They were previously known as the DFEH. And so before I start, first, just a couple points of bookkeeping. I'm not a constitutional lawyer, so I will not be speaking on the pros and cons of SB 403 or the explicit use of the word caste in the bill. My focus here today is to speak about my personal experience in the Cisco case. I'm going to be sharing facts today that are essentially public and from court documents only. I will read out from a script. Pardon me if that's a little bit impersonal. It's not my style, but we'll do that for legal purposes. Okay, so first, a quick background. I grew up in India, of course, and India gave me two most important things vital for growth: opportunity and adversity. My caste privilege is that I took a loan of $40,000, roughly $75,000 in today's terms, to come to America to study. My colleague, Ramana Kompella, and I were sued by the California Civil Rights Department, which we'll refer to as a CRD, in June of 2020. Why? They claimed that we discriminated and harassed their anonymous client, John Doe, because of his caste. Who is John Doe? John Doe was my classmate back in college days in India. I paid John Doe several $1 million in compensation to join my startup at Cisco Systems. I personally recruited him, sacrificed all of my CEO equity to all of my employees, including to John Doe. John Doe self-identifies as a Dalit. The CRD defines Dalit as the lowest caste in Hinduism and in India. And of course, what is caste? The CRD claims that caste is a strict Hindu social and religious hierarchy. They submitted a number of articles, declarations, book chapters that equate caste with South Asia and Hinduism. Right? So that's sort of the quick and dirty background and the tone setting, if you will. So now I will focus on the primary allegations in the case. What was I accused of? I was accused of the fact that I did not award John Doe the head of engineering position in my startup because he was a Dalit. Well, did John Doe apply for the open head of engineering position? No. If you read the court documents, Cisco says he doesn't allege that he requested or even ever wanted that position. I was accused of bigotry against Dalits, but the fact is that I not only hired John Doe, allegedly, even if I knew his caste, but I also offered all of my top 3 leadership positions in my Cisco startup, including the position, the head of engineering position that John Doe claims discrimination for, to another Dalit, the same lowest caste as John Doe. Why? Because the other senior Dalit candidate, who was essentially the best person I could hire for the job. 2 of these offers of these top leadership positions were made prior to Doe filing any complaints of caste discrimination. Still, the CRD went ahead and sued us for Dalit discrimination. The CRD also accused me of salary discrimination. So let's put that in context. This is despite me taking no equity in my startup, compensating Doe with several millions of dollars. What did they claim? They said that I didn't give John Doe a few extra $1,000 in a single salary increment cycle in October 2016. So they went ahead and sued me for salary discrimination. The CRD then named my colleague Ramana Kompella and me. They went to the press on the very same day they filed the lawsuit, before our fair day in court. The CRD's caste activist collaborators followed suit, writing several articles tarnishing our reputations. Even today, Ramana and I continue to be the recipients of activist propaganda and unadulterated hate. Some of these activists, in fact, academics, even targeted us for our last names alone, calling our last names and several Hindu last names as violent castes. Like the CRD, they all presume us guilty. Let me repeat, Ramana and I are the state of California's, probably all of America's, best and only example of caste litigation. I am being accused of Dalit caste discrimination, despite having given every top leadership position in my Cisco startup to a different Dalit candidate, the same lowest caste as John Doe. Okay, now I shall move on to a different aspect of the case, which is the state's deliberate constitutional violations. I provided the CRD with public data that I am not religious. Yet the CRD claims that I adhere to Hindu religious practices. The CRD is supposed to protect civil rights, yet they deliberately violated my freedom of religion rights. Next, they knew that I do not practice caste. I don't even wear the sacred thread. I have written short stories against caste 10+ years back. I don't even practice religion, let alone Hinduism, let alone allegedly caste. Still, they deliberately assigned me a Hindu Brahmin caste. How ironic. A civil rights organization deliberately assigns me caste based on my last name alone. The CRD perpetuated a racist caste by birth system that they claim to oppose. Next, the CRD claimed that caste is a deeply private matter. Yet they broadcast my assigned Brahmin caste to the whole world. They next claimed that caste leads to violence. It didn't stop the CRD from colluding with activists who made several violent stereotypes of Brahmins and upper caste Indians. In fact, Equality Labs, the CRD's main activist collaborator, is on record saying Nazis are in Germans, in fact, in Europe, they are upper caste Indians. History will remember June 30th, 2020, as the day the California Civil Rights sued us as the first instance of state-sponsored casteism. You heard it here first. The CRD investigated the Cisco case for many years, despite overwhelming evidence to the contrary. And after a mere 15-minute interview that I was given, they asking me simply rank and file questions, they doubled down and sued me for caste discrimination. That's a violation of my due process rights. But they didn't stop there. I was also sued for caste-based harassment. Well, what's harassment? That's a pretty serious crime. You would have to call someone the N-word multiple times at a place of work to be sued for harassment. Harassment is based not on your business actions, but on your personal bad behavior. In the 8 years since I've hired John Doe, the CRD has not even alleged a single bad statement that I've ever said to John Doe. The CRD also sued Ramana for caste-based harassment. What was his most grievous crime? That Ramana asked John Doe to file weekly status reports. Who gave Ramana the directive to ask John Doe to file status reports? That directive came from Ramana's white American manager, a brilliant man and a legend in Silicon Valley. Is that not racist stereotyping? Accusing Ramana for harassment for simply following his manager's request. The CRD named and shamed us simply for doing our job. Imagine the chilling effect that it has on any Californian supervisor today. If you thought that was the end of the CRD, they were just getting started. They not only targeted the two of us, they targeted 50 plus of my Cisco coworkers. They labeled my vibrant and diverse ethnic team, women and men, seniors and juniors, variety of races and ethnicities from all over the globe, as a team of entirely upper caste Indians. They accused these 50 plus co-workers without any due process of importing bigotry, of importing the caste system from India to America and stripped them of their humanity. They then claimed a hostile to Dalit environment, but did not even bother to interview the senior person who was also Dalit in my group, the person who had the topmost position in my group. The CRD erased his Dalit identity, for it would not fit their narrative. They didn't just treat us as individuals. We weren't human to them. We were just pawns in their racist narrative. But it didn't stop there. They then unleashed a flood of hate on all Hindu Americans. They joined forces with Equality Labs, and in repeated court motions, almost 6 times, the CRD racially profiled and violently stereotyped Hindu Americans by accusing them even raping 25% of all Dalits in America. This would be physical assaults and rapes on 25% of all Dalits in America without a shred of evidence. The judge rejected this insane targeting of Hindu Americans. He also rejected each and every claim and every self-acknowledged unscientific Equality Labs report as anecdotal, not evidence. The CRD made the life of 2.5 million Hindu Americans worse. But they were not content with that. They expanded their hate to all Indian Americans. Using the same material that the judge denied as evidence, they platformed several xenophobic remarks. Statements like life is a living hell working under Indian managers. They accused Indian Americans of spitting on Dalits. Why? Simply because of knowledge of their caste. And of course, accusing upper caste Indians of boasting of their biological superiority on purely anecdotal data. They even politicized the case and made dual loyalty smears on all Indian Americans. The CRD alleged an increase in casteism in America due to the election of Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Mr. Modi's caste background was suppressed as it didn't fit the racist narrative. They made the life of all 4 million Indian Americans worse. You didn't need Judge Takaichi's ruling in 2021 to know that a civil rights agency should not be targeting minorities. But what did they do when the judge denied them? They doubled down with these accusations and went to appeals court. I want to summarize the status of where we are today with the Cisco case. In January of 2021, the Hindu American Foundation sued the CRD, accusing them of violating the American Constitution multiple times. In September of 2021, the Federal Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, this is a federal body, accused the CRD of several ethics violations. In April of 22, Governor Newsom, as reported, fired the CRD's lead prosecutor, also the lead prosecutor in the Cisco case. In October of 2022, CasteGate.org, a volunteer-led organization, documented the deeply disturbing and continuing unethical actions in the Cisco case. In Jan of 2023, we filed a motion to sanction the CRD prosecutors for bringing a case which had no legal or factual basis. The CRD then withdrew their case against Ramana and we, while still continuing to sue Cisco. In April of 2023, the California Policy Center, a Southern California-based think tank, released a damning white paper accusing the CRD of a pattern of corrupt behavior against several Californian companies, including Activision, Tesla, and Riot Games. In July of 2023, California for Justice, a volunteer-driven engineer organization, accused the CRD for targeting Indian Americans and appealed to Governor Newsom to urgently intervene. So I want to conclude with a few remarks. In the past, I have co-founded or hired executive roles to people from British, Australian, Pakistani, Syrian American, Bangladeshi, Taiwanese, Indian, and of course, fellow Americans. Why? Because they were the best person I could find for the job, for those roles. Dear Dr. Ambedkar, I hadn't realized that I would have to talk to you. I am deeply sorry. At Cisco, I gave my top leadership positions first to a brilliant and hardworking Dalit candidate. Why? Because he was the best person that I could hire. The CRD won't tell the judge that. The activists who claim to speak for the Dalits in America won't tell you that. The scholars who are supposed to uphold academic integrity will not tell you that. And the press, of course, will not report that. It does not fit the narrative. But dear Dr. Ambedkar, I thought you should know the truth. In America, we're not expected to prove our innocence. It is the job of the state to prove guilt. The CRD withdrew their case against Ramana and me with prejudice. In layman's language, that means they agreed to never sue Ramana and me on this matter. However, earlier this year, our local Fremont Senator Wahab introduced SB 403, which aims to prevent discrimination based on someone's perceived caste. In her speech, she invoked the Cisco case and presumed my 50+ coworkers as guilty. Many of them are her own constituents. Like the CRD, she perceived us as oppressed upper caste before our fair day in court. I thank you, Senator Wahab.